Welcome everybody that is joining us live on Facebook here. My name is Linzee Ciprani. I am the owner of Ciprani Consulting. We are the top recruiting and consulting firm in the country for all things real estate. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Christy Grossman, who is the CEO of Ops Boss Coaching, the ultimate resource for training and coaching for real estate's op bosses. So welcome everybody. We're super excited today, and I'm actually going to let our guests introduce themselves to you, but we have Felicia and Sabrina, and they're going to tell you who they are, why they're here with us, and the companies that they run. So I'm going to kick it to you guys real quick. Explain that to us.
Okay. Well, I'm Felicia Keith-Jones, and I own Highmark Distillery and Highmark Barrel House.
And I'm Sabrina. I run a distribution company in Northern Nevada called Vin Sauvage. We're a small distribution company that supports smaller brands.
Awesome. And you guys are working together because Sabrina, you are the distributor.
Correct.
Of the distillery. Too many D's coming out of my mouth. So we're really excited to have you. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Christy take you guys through the quick fire questions so that we can get to know you a little bit better here.
Awesome. I'm so excited. It's so fun to have people outside of real estate. So we're excited to get to know you. We're going to go through quick fire real quick so our audience can know a little bit about you before we dive in. So how many years have each of you been in business?
I personally have been doing distilling for 9 years, 9.5. Yeah.
Yep. And distribution, chain management, about 14.
That's a long time, I would imagine, in your industry.
It is. It is.
And then how many years have you been working together?
Almost 3.
Almost 3, yeah. Correct.
Awesome. And then we like to talk profits on our shows. So year one profit and what you expect for this year's profit.
Okay. Mine's a little different. So all funding goes, and I funded it 100% myself. So all funding goes in the front end of your business. And net profit, the first year that we were in business, usually it's in the hole. And luckily, we were net profit $11,000. So what that meant was it was so tiny, but every staff member got a giant chocolate chip cookie as their thank you that year. That's all we could afford. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, but making a profit year one is an accomplishment.
Especially for a distillery. Yeah, you don't hear that very often. You hear usually they're in the hole for 3 or 4 years. So hey, hands off to you.
Awesome. And then what do you expect this year?
Okay. For the last, let's see. We'll do gross revenue we went by quarter because in Alaska, we're just starting up in Reno. In Nevada, in Alaska, we have such a heavy tourism industry that you're usually going by quarters because it's so fluctuating. So gross revenue for the summer quarter, so quarter 2 was $358,000. So if you equated that to a year of gross revenue, it should have been, well, it will be 1.432 million if you're using all 4 quarters.
Awesome.
And then Reno is just starting. So we have no gauge on that yet, but we know that Reno and Vegas are very thirsty. So that's good.
Very thirsty.
I bet they are. Let me tell you, I live right outside of Washington, D.C. We're very thirsty too.
Yes, you are.
Good job.
Yes, you
good
are.
job.
Yeah, I was actually in D.C. for a conference last year, and it is amazing how many bars and restaurants are there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, crazy town. This is what we call it. Okay, so how many people, I'm not familiar with your industry very much, so how many people are on your team? How many people do you work with or lead?
Okay, in Alaska for the summers, we're a team of about 4 to 6 people, depending on what if we're in production or not. That's what I should say. And then for Reno, for our small building here, and we're actually sitting in it right now, we will be a team of 6. And then when we get the new building finished and built, we'll have about a team of 20 plus members on our team.
Awesome. And then what about you, Sabrina?
For me, we have 2 warehouses, one in Reno, one in Vegas. We're about 11 in Reno, including the drivers. We're about 24 in Vegas.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Perfect. That gives us a little frame of reference. Okay, and then we'd like to take, one of you would take, like, what's your morning routine? And one of you tell us, like, how do you prep for tomorrow?
Okay. Morning or prep?
I'll do morning.
Will you? Okay.
Well, mine's kind of the same, but yeah, okay. Go ahead. I think for me, for morning, I'm a big mantra person. So I get up, I snuggle with my cute little dog. That's like a morning routine that I don't miss. We watch a little bit of the news, and in the shower, believe it or not, I have a mantra that I say to myself every day, and it's basically getting ready for the day. Get up, wake up, enjoy your day, fight, be strong, beat the competition. So those are things I say in the shower. And then I just happen to drive through a wildlife reserve every morning to work. So that's my relaxing part of my day. So I really try to start my day with some excitement, and then some power, and then, some relaxation, because our workday is full of, you have to jump to this thing, and then you have to hurry up and wait.
I love that. I'm a big believer in affirmations too. Yeah. So you're getting your energy right before you go into the day. Yeah.
Yep. I'm trying to get myself up and then calm myself down, and get myself up, calm myself down.
Like alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
Felicia, what about you for how you prep for tomorrow?
Okay. Let's see. I just do the miracle morning in the morning, but I kind of tweaked it myself. But for prepping for the next day, let's see. I kind of did it by the week. So on Saturday afternoon or Sunday night, I write out all the details and projects, and I put them into my Rich Life Planner, which is one that Matt Atchison put together. And
so good.
This was my first year to use it. Before that, I kind of made it up myself. But honestly, that thing has been a game changer, if anyone wants that tip. And then review for the next day. So I review before bed, so I know what's coming, fewer surprise attacks. So I try to be proactive, not reactive, by looking at my phone calendar, also reviewing what's on the Rich Life Planner, like what's coming up for the entire week and month. And then during the day, I still go old school. So I have a to-do list, and I write it out on sticky notes. And I don't know if it's the reward that I like. I don't even think it's that. I think it's just a habit, but I like checking things off, and I'm like, yeah, woo, we're getting through it, because there's a lot some days. And, sometimes you have 5 sticky notes, but you're like, yeah, I threw 3 out. I got that done. So yeah.
Good. I like that. I like that. No surprise attacks. That's awesome. Okay. So what book impacted you the most? Either one of you or both of you.
Okay. Jump on this one.
Right now, I think I have 2 that are, well, maybe 3. Okay. So really quickly, Scale by Jeff Hoffman for business has been fantastic for my industry, because when I was reading through there, honestly, I thought I had things pretty well dialed in. And within the first couple chapters, I'm like, crap, there are 28 things I'm doing wrong. Not wrong, but that could be improved, I guess, is how he would word it. But yeah, so working on those. And then one of my all-time favorites that just is dear to my heart, I guess, because it just lays out my whole life in there, is the Alaska Bootlegger's Bible. And it's by Leon Kanaya. And it just has humor in it, but it also shows old school, how things were done back in the day before everybody had fancy equipment, and yeast that would do the work for you, and you had enzymes, all this stuff. It was back in the day, this is how we did it. And I love that. So it really makes it so that anybody can understand the industry. It's not just all, industry jumbo gumbo that you're talking about. And then for personal, for my family finances and making it a legacy for my boys and our entire family, my absolute favorite right now is What Would the Rockefellers Do by Garrett Gunderson.
That's a great book.
His entire program is cool. So that one I'm kind of definitely dialing in. That's a goal for this year, to clean up some of those.
Those are good. Those are books nobody else has mentioned, all 3 of those. So that's fantastic. Sabrina, is there anything you want to add on there?
I think for me, I come from a very, very, very male-dominated industry. It's very common for me to walk into a room and I'm the only female. So the book that was inspiring to me was Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. Also inspiring in her book when I was making the move to go from a very large distributor to a startup distributor and work on that. It was a very scary thing for me to do, because the big machine is easy. So I knew there were going to be a ton of challenges moving. So from her transition from Google to Facebook, she was in that same kind of industry situation. So it was pretty inspiring when I made that move, and it helped with my confidence making that move.
I love that. That's awesome. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Okay, last 2 questions. How many streams of income do you each have?
Okay. One of them is murky, so I'm not sure if it's a 3 or a 4. So I would say confidently that I have 3 streams of revenue. Maybe one of them counts as 4. And then I am ready to go ahead and add rentals back into my portfolio, because had those for 17 years, loved them. They were always fourplexes. And and then decided that managing those properties up in Alaska and living in Reno was quite the challenge. So why not go ahead and cash those out and invest those into my own business for the startup down here. So ready to now find the right property.
That the Linzee Ciprani team can help you with that, no matter what state you're in.
Wonderful. I'm interested.
And how many streams of income for you?
I'm probably at about 4 right now. Distribution, real estate. I actually rehab old motorhomes. That's something that I made a lot of money on this year. And then I also do some seamstress work, and I do some jewelry, which is very unique. It's something I've always done on the side. So friends have wedding dresses they want me to fix or whatever. And
oh, how cool.
Yeah, but it's more of, those last two are more of hobbies. I just happen to make money.
She makes costumes for Burning Man. That is so cool.
I do. I make those big fur coats that glow in the dark, and I make like the leather belts, and I do
so
like
awesome. Who knew? Oh my God, you guys are too cool.
We should make you wear that. That's super fun.
Okay, so the last question before we dig into the real stuff is, what's your superpower, or what is the other person's superpower? Whichever one you want to answer.
Well, I can definitely say hers. Hers is hospitality, taking care of people, kind of getting people to focus a little bit in that situation and have a good time.
And I'd have to say for Sabrina, probably she's an expert at communication. Like there's not anybody that she doesn't seem to connect to on some level, and then bring them into the fold so that they feel like family by the end of the day, which is rare. It's very rare.
I love people.
And it's delightful.
So, I love people. That's my favorite thing.
Wow, like you guys are our smiliest guests so far. This is awesome. So for those of you who haven't listened before, we chat with entrepreneurs and their shotgun leaders on this podcast, inside and outside real estate, about what adds to the leadership formula, what subtracts, what divides, and most importantly, what multiplies your results. So we've talked about things like, how does the entrepreneur find their one, and how does the one choose the visionary to partner with? And we're going to let Linzee dive into the meat of the show with some good questions.
Yes. Well, so walk us through, guys, how did you come together? You know, obviously it's been about 3 years now, but what did you see in each other that drew you together as partners?
Shall we say how we met?
Yeah. We met at a bar.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Water, by the way.
Christy did that last week for us too.
I actually had a wine glass with water in it last week. They didn't believe me that it was water though.
It's just more fun to drink out of a fancy glass. It really is bottled water. It's too early in the morning for anything else. Yeah. But anyway, Taft and I had flown in from Alaska, and we were really looking at the Reno area to move my company here, and trying to decide, you know, like, we knew that we wanted South Reno to live in. What was that neighborhood going to look like, and trying to get a feel for everything. So we were honestly out at it was a brew tap house.
It was my neighborhood bar.
Yeah, which was lucky. Because and so anyway, we just met this bubbliest, coolest chick that was sitting there, and she knew all about beers because Taft enjoyed that, and we were talking about that, and then snow machines, which of course is snowmobiling everywhere else. Yep. And she'd been to Alaska, so we just connected on all kinds of levels, and we both have crazy, crazy curly hair.
Yep.
So we just hit it off right away, and then realized, holy smokes, we're actually in the same industry on different levels. So I have the distillery, we make the stuff, we have to sell it. Sabrina sells it all. So that was interesting that we met up that way, and we've just been fast friends ever since, and working together on different
projects. Did you guys partner in business, like how soon after that?
I think probably right away.
It was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And were you looking for people to partner with at that time, or was it?
For me as a distribution company, I'm always looking. She mentioned that she was going to bring a distillery to Northern Nevada, and I didn't have a local distillery in my book. So I think that was very desirable for me. And then she also makes a product called Applejack that is delightful. It's very delicious. It goes good with our community, and it's a beautiful product. And I was excited to bring it in. It would be something I would buy for myself on the shelf. So I think that was a good fit at that point for me. For her, I think she was looking for a distribution company, but I'll let her answer that.
Yeah. So distribution companies, unless they're extremely large, do not cross state lines. So we knew that coming from Alaska, we already had our distribution company there. What were we going to do once we got to Nevada? And so looking for a distribution company was one of the primary focuses that I needed to have, because you can make the alcohol all day long with your craft distiller's license, but if it's not able to go out the doors, you have no sales. And so anyway, we don't exist without our distributor. And then I guess conversely, you know, like they have nothing to sell unless we're making it. So it's a very tight group of us that have to all work together. Right. And Sabrina was with a different company at that time, and it was a very large company, which was almost a deterrent, because we had gone with a very large company up in Alaska. And so I was like, you know, you get lost in the shuffle. Like if you're not,
get lost in the book.
If you're not one of the big brands, yeah, then you're going to be hidden. And then when Sabrina took the leap and went with the smaller, more elite, higher end company, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic, because now we'd already started working together. This is going to be even better. So yeah,
it was a good fit.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys obviously got along together, but how did you know you were going to be strong and good business partners? Like, did you know that right off the bat, or was it something that you thought, well, we'll try it?
Well, something her and I talk about all the time. And I remember calling her one day and saying, you know, I don't know if it's the distillery or if this is the business, but we're going to do something big together. I just have this like ingrained feeling that we're going to do something really big together. And, you know, this is our first venture together. It seems like it's going well. Yep. And we're excited about it. So we just enjoy being around each other and working together. So I think intuition.
And it's not every day that you find someone that it kind of aligns with your philosophy in life. And Sabrina's not afraid to go big, and she's not afraid to dream large dreams and implement the steps that need to take place so that you can achieve those. And so we work together for the distillery and distribution into things, and then on the flip side, we also get together to mastermind with each other and like the different pillars of what we believe in. So, you know, the faith, you know, spiritual, physical, like how are we going to build the rest of our lives? And some of those cross over, and some of them are just personal for our own two families. But it's worked out nicely to have someone locally that really was a powerhouse and a big thinker as well. So.
Well, and to her too, I think it's really important for you to pair up with somebody that, you know, you can accentuate their strengths. So for her, she's a great dreamer. She's an outside of the box thinker. And for me, I'm very much of an executor. I'm very much of let's put all the pieces of the puzzle and make the flow work. And I love that she's able to dream and think outside the box. So for us, it works really well.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess I should probably have to mention too, like when Sabrina mentioned that it's a dude world that we live in, I really think we're probably the only two girls in the industry. So maybe that was part of it. We just bonded because, you know, it's a room full of men coming from my side, a room full of men coming from her side, and we're like, hey, a girl. So that might have been part of it.
Right away, like you guys have an incredible chemistry together. And I think what I'm hearing from you is that chemistry just happened, like as soon as you met each other, you connected. But now that you've been in business together for several years, what would you say is a really key to the other person's success and your partnership that you didn't know about her when you met her? And I know that wasn't on the list.
That's okay. Let's see.
I think for me, the thing that I didn't know about Felicia is when we first met, we were looking more at a business relationship, but then we decided, well, we have the same likes and interests. We have the same morals. We have the same values. And to me, I'm very much of a family person, and I'm very much of a community person. I'm a fourth generation Nevadite, or Nevadan, Renoite. So I think that her sense of community was something I didn't expect. So she's able to reach our community on a much higher level than other people that have come in and tried to do something in Nevada. So that is a massive value to me, and I didn't expect that. So that would be the most important thing for me, I would say. What about you?
Oh, cool. Well, coming from Alaska, it's all about community because you have hardly any people and you have a huge state. So I think that was already ingrained in how I was doing business. So that was a natural. But for Sabrina, honestly, I have to say that she is a wealth of knowledge in the field. And that helps so much because in the spirits industry, it's an age-old industry of how you produce, usually. And then when you're trademarking things, it's down to 1/1000th of a second when your trademarks go through. Like it is so quick. And it seems like in the industry, everybody gets the same idea at the same time. Now, who's going to race to the market and get it, you know, trademarked and theirs first? And navigating through all of the different systems, like, honestly, Sabrina is the expert in our field, especially in Nevada. And so that's been fabulous to be able to tap into her brain. And then, like she had said, you know, being a 4th generation Nevada girl, anything that seems to pop up, like we might need help with something, or, you know, it's she just makes one phone call and it happens. And that's what I'm able to do in Alaska for the business, because we lived there for so long. And so being able to have Sabrina as a resource for that, you're not always the new girl. So that was lovely, honestly.
You guys say, so like, out of the two of you, is Sabrina, are you more the person that like has the details buttoned up and is kind of leading that side of things? And then is that the case?
So I would say we definitely take turns on some details. On the distribution side, absolutely. I have to make sure all the dots are in a row. I'll ask her the same questions 5 or 6 times just to make sure that we have the same alignment. So I just want to make sure that things, you know, flow really well. Getting a product from the apple to the shelf is so much work. And doing the presentations with some of the major retail buyers, it's challenging. And I think for me, just setting up those meetings, getting that locked down, making sure the presentation goes good, setting up the presentation, setting the setup sheet. I mean, it's exhausting, but I'm good at that. So that's what I do. So I think that's what makes me help the smaller guys actually get to the shelf. That's what's important.
Do you guys, what is your strategy, maybe a communication strategy, or how you meet or how you discuss to make sure that you're going the same direction and have the same priorities, since you kind of have 2 separate companies and yet you're working together with a shared vision, but sometimes one person's going this way and one's going that way? How do you get on the same page?
Okay, well, mine's all about production. So I have a very strong relationship, really good friends with all of our farmers and our orchard growers and everybody that's down in the dirt. You know, we're first level of getting things from off the trees and out of the field into the bottles. And so anything production is totally my world. And then let's see, working together on that, we've had numerous and often we meet together for strategic marketing plans and strategic
label design, brand development, innovation, products, ideas. I mean, you name it. And we'll text each other, hey, I got a great idea.
Or just if you're somewhere and you see a bottle label that you really like, you're like, what do you think of this? You know, should we update? Because I had to go through an entire update of our brand and our logo and because it was so heavily created, everything was created in Alaska. That doesn't always transfer over so well to a new market. And then making us ready to be throughout the United States and then have international sales as well was an interesting challenge. But without Sabrina's knowledge of what's trending in the marketplace now, what is coming next, what, you know, the look we have right now, how can we adapt that without throwing everything away? Because our original customers are very loyal to what we created in the beginning. And I love that. And we didn't want to throw everything away. We just wanted to add on and update. And so, okay, so an example is we had a fat bottle. Fat bottles aren't your friend, because the truth is that people that are pouring out of the bottles, those don't fit their hands. We never thought of that. So I picked what was cool and pretty. And, you know, and like for the moonshine, it was rugged and tough and it was hearty. Well, hearty doesn't work for a girl that's trying to make, you know, she's a mixologist trying to make cocktails, or a guy that is double fisting everything, you know, to pour. Never thought of that until Sabrina brought it to my attention and was like, you know, if you went with this bottle instead, you can still get the high end look, but you're going to make it more compatible. The other thing that was really interesting is that those fat bottles, we were taking up shelf space for like 1.5 bottles. It was hard to place us, you know, like if you're Jack Daniels, you can go ahead and buy that extra shelf space and it's not going to harm you. But if I had to go ahead and buy that extra shelf space, that's a waste of money and it's not going to sell for us. So we needed to fit in the category of when they're placing it on the shelves for the liquor stores. We were too big. So who knew? That was interesting for me to find out. Yeah.
Think of it as like real estate on a shelf.
Yeah, we had the wrong real estate. Yeah, we had an apartment building that needed to go in, and we were taking up the space of a mall.
I love that. Well, and so it's interesting when Sabrina would bring those things to you, was it just automatically trusting, like she knows better, or was there like, did you guys have to like come to a place where you trusted each other and everything in that with that? Does that make sense?
It sure does. I think probably the relationship had already, the trust factor was already there because, you know, whether you know it or not, you're testing each other all the time of, you know, I need the answer to this. And then when she gives the answer and then you hear it from another, you know, 2 or 3 people in the industry, you're like, she was dead on. Like, I didn't even have to second guess it. She knows her stuff. And then vice versa. So when we got to the issue of, you know, this is going to be extremely expensive and time consuming to redo all of the bottles and brands and shapes and, you know, because you have an established bottle maker that you are already buying from. Can they now do what you're needing? And if not, you've harmed that relationship or you cut it off and have to start another relationship. And it's all about relationships in our industry. Like, they'll be loyal to you to the end of the earth, and I will to our people. And then if something changes, you're starting all over again. So loyalty and trust is huge because we're working daily on a federal, state, county, and city level with laws and statutes. And that gets tricky in a hurry because you mess up once and you're dead.
So I do remember too, when her and I were talking and we were developing, I remember our biggest conversation actually was deciding on the bottle, and like this bulbous was like, we talked about it for an hour. I mean, you'd be surprised. Like, these little things make a difference, but is this comfortable in a bartender's hand? You know, what does it look like on the shelf? What's the space? How big is the glass at the bottom? How tall is the bottle? Is it going to fit on that shelf placement? When you cap it, what's the seal going to look like? Are we going to put a necker over it? What is that going to look like? How does the label fit on the bottle? Do you put a rocker on there? I mean, these are all things that, like, every one of those was a, you know, 1 hour conversation.
You guys are in constant communication.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, even though hers is an industry of its own. Distribution is huge. And then, you know, the distillers, we're all separate companies, but having that communication constantly is how you make sure that growth happens.
We're constantly giving each other feedback too, constantly, but we appreciate it.
What does that look like? Explain.
Yeah. So I think actually perfect example, when we were setting up our items in our system, we were talking about pricing. So we started off with, what do you want the price to be on the shelf? And then we worked the example backwards.
So you reverse engineer the entire project.
Correct. As we're, you know, all the way to what's in the bottle. I mean, it's very, very, very tedious, but, you know, we gave her feedback of, you know, this is what the competition's price is. This is where I would like that price to be. This is the discount we need to give if somebody buys 3 cases instead of 1 bottle.
And then I say, I appreciate that. However, we're going with all organic. Yep. So my growers can't grow at that price and sell it to me. I'm going to have to go a little bit higher. Although if we go with larger volume going out the doors, you know, with the cases, then we can match that. And so then you just come together as a negotiation, I would say, probably.
Yeah, and like we negotiate to the penny on every item.
So, it is to the penny. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. And I know Felicia like has a big vision of where, you know, what she wants. I've seen that with her. And at some point we'll talk about the foundation that she's involved in too. But, you know, walk us through, like, how did you learn that, Sabrina? Like, how did you kind of get to know her and her style? Or was it all communication? Because I loved in the beginning, it was that you were like the best communicator. That's your superpower. Like, was it all just pulling that out of her?
Well, I think we both are really good communicators, but, you know, she came to me with, you know, I want to open this distillery in Reno and this is my product. We had a barbecue, right?
Yeah.
We had a barbecue and she brought over the blueberry, what was it? The
blueberry cobbler moonshine. And they were like, what is this?
It was so good.
So I don't bring pasta salads to barbecues. I bring liquid funds.
Yep. And I think that's where the conversation started. I think that's when we kind of learned to communicate. And we were talking about the product and are you going to bring this to market? And if we do it, how's it going to work in cocktails? And, you know, we just dream together. And that's the biggest part of this is we both want this to succeed. We're both financially vested in it, and we both want it to grow.
Well, and that's something Christy and I, it's funny, the people that watch this and are really dialed into, what we're trying to figure out here is, people often start working with somebody and they don't know all the questions to ask. So like, even if you look at something as easy as real estate, right? We have lots of people watching that are outside of real estate, but if you take real estate and like the marketing for a home, that second person that's really in command, that's trying to do all the work, has to ask all the questions and like pull the information out from the person that's used to doing it all the time and really figure out what they want to do. And I think a lot of times they have a really hard time doing that, but you guys have like so easily come together and figured each other out, which is so fun to watch. And I think a lot of people can't.
Well, I think honestly, to add to that, like if we hadn't already been in our own industries for years beforehand, like I was in it for 9 years, Sabrina has 14 years of industry experience. Like you don't always naturally find someone that your communication styles match. And we were, visiting about this before, but truthfully, luckily ours matched. But if they hadn't, there would have been a little bit more of a learning curve of, how do we dance together here? Like, one of us is ahead, one's behind, or we're banging into each other on the sides with our ideas. And that didn't happen because we do talk to each other on the same style, I guess, which was a godsend. Like that's huge and that's amazing and delightful. If it weren't, then we would have had to kind of work at it a bit more. And it doesn't mean that person isn't fantastic and lovely. It's just you've got to find what works with them and then meet in the middle.
And we highly respect each other, and we respect that we both have made a lot of mistakes.
Oh yeah.
And we talk about our mistakes all the time, and we give each other like, hey, this is the thing I did, and life's not perfect. This isn't like the most beautiful show in the world, and it's so great. It's it's choppy and it's rough, and there's a lot of bad days for one good day. And I think we really respect each other for some of the things that we've been through in our lives, and we talk about it in detail.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Both of you are super high energy, super fast paced, which I love because that's how Linzee and I are too. Are all the people in your world like that in your companies and your teams? And how do you bridge that gap with them? Because a lot of the people that are listening to our show are combinations of behavioral profiles. You guys seem very similar. And so how do you bridge that gap with the people on your team that maybe operate at a different pace?
Okay, I'd say probably here at the distillery, anyone that is dealing with with our customers, those are absolutely our primary focus when they're in the tasting room. And so anyone that is hired for that position, I honestly come from a background of feeling like if you don't feel welcome and love where you're at, you're not going to visit twice. And so hospitality to me is absolutely paramount. Like they need to feel like they just walked into my home and I'm so happy to see them because I am. And there's not one customer that comes in that I devalue, because the truth is every single one of them are precious to, our industry and to me personally. And up in Alaska, I mean, you start to know all of your customers that come in and are purchasing and your vendors and everyone else. And so you even know their kids' names, their dog, like it becomes a family. And this is the alcohol industry is huge. However, distillers are still pretty new in America. And so we all are a pretty close-knit group that also know each other. Of course, you're competing, but it's a friendly competition and you're really, truly cheering each other on in the background because Europe has it dialed in. Other countries definitely do. And America is still on the learning curve of getting to the forefront of making distilling kind of a normal thing to do with the higher end spirits and bringing in our own, weird ingredients and our cool farmers that we're tapping into with different grains that they can grow and all kinds of different things. So to get back to your question, in the tasting room, I look for three things. So they need to be hungry, happy, and healthy. Mentally too. I mean, I'm not just looking at physical, that is a wonderful bonus. If they're not mentally healthy, then they cannot give the best of themselves to the customers every day.
How do you do that? What stands out? How do you deem that they're mentally healthy? What does that look like for you?
With our interview process, I don't just try to find out what their skill level is. I also dig in a little deeper. And I honestly got a few of those tips from the Dave Ramsey show and some of his training that he does, which of course is mostly real estate, but and Tom Ferry. Honestly, both have been huge influences on how I look at who's going to join our team. And some people say it's a probation. I wouldn't say it's that. I think it's definitely making sure that they're a perfect match or a very good match for our industry before they come on full board.
So what kind of questions are you asking them in the interview process to determine, are you hungry, happy, and healthy? Like, do you have certain questions you're asking, or are you vetting that in their references? Like, what does that look like?
I sure do. So references are nice. However, I want to know firsthand from that person what they're really thinking and who are they, you know, with their morals and their background, and just kind of give different scenarios of like, how would you problem solve this? And it might be a question of, I don't know, I can't even think of an example right now, but if someone came in and needed a refund and you know that they, I don't know, that's a bad example. So any difficulty that might come up and you're having to work with a customer that is not a positive, how do you change it into a positive? And I wouldn't lead that way. I would just ask them, how would you deal with that person? And then kind of see what they say. Another one that, a question that I've asked numerous gentlemen, and it always takes them off guard, I guess, because it's kind of more on the fluff side, is if you were not standing in the room, how would you want your friends to talk about you? You know, what are some words that they would use to explain who you are? And that kind of gives me an idea of like character and morals and such. Who do they want to be? And when someone says, you know, I just want them to say that I'm a good guy, you know, I'm always a good guy. And I'm like, you know, that has value. Like they care that they are giving their all every day. And then different problem solving questions that are basically distillery, very dialed in as to the procedure and the process, because I need to know that they're coachable too. If they come in as a know-it-all, that's fantastic that they know how to distill. However, are they going to be able to be coached to do it the right way and legally? Because sometimes I've had fantastic distillers that before they were ever hired on, they definitely had a background in distilling. Was it legal? Probably not. They had generations of knowledge from their family. Do I value that? Absolutely, because it's like learning to bake a really good pie. You know, grandma knew.
So how do you determine in that situation, if that's a common situation, whether they are coachable? Because you can't just say, are you coachable? They'll say yes, right? So what does that conversation look like in the interview to determine that they're coachable? Because we're looking for the same thing, I think, in any business.
Okay, this is going to be really specific, so it's not going to be maybe that interesting. But oftentimes distillers are just totally honed in on, I use to test the proofing. You know, so you're deciding what proof that alcohol is. How do you usually do that? And then if they say, I like to use the hydrometer and the test tube, and then I go ahead and take the temperature, and you're like, those are both correct answers. How do you feel about using the density meter? Have you worked with the Anton Par before? That kind of gives me an idea of if they're going to go to one side and say, you know, I don't really believe in the digital technology and I'm not comfortable with it. Or they say, actually, I've never even heard of that. I'd like to see what that is.
Nice. Okay, beautiful.
Or if they say, yeah, I've used that often. I actually love it. I prefer it. Then you're like, okay, they've got an open mind as to what else is available in the industry to make our job a little easier and more professional. So.
Beautiful. That was a great example.
What about you, Sabrina? Because you've got a totally different world.
No, so for me, I probably am the cheerleader for my salespeople. They are experts in their field and they have been doing this for a long time. When it comes to merchandisers, I look for people that are eager to learn and pay attention and they stay off the phone. That's probably the number one thing. I look for kind of the culture of how they talk to people in the industry. And how they present themselves. That's more important for me. But most of all, I ask people, what's your hidden talent? Nice. Believe it or not, everybody's got a really unique hidden talent, and that will tell you the passion of the person. That is probably my favorite question to ask in an interview. And I also ask them, what's your dream job? And that says a lot about, those two questions say so much about a person. And I feel like that has really guided me over the last 8 or 9 years about picking people. So I hope I answered your question.
Awesome.
Those are good. I'm going to borrow some of those.
Yeah, I like that. What's your hidden talent? So what's your hidden talent?
I know. That's what I was going to say.
What's your hidden talent?
Oh, what's my hidden talent? I love to build things. I am a fix-it girl, and I would say I just like to build things. And people are always shocked when something breaks. Like my Maverick broke the other day, my side-by-side, and I fixed it. And people were shocked. But I was raised in an auto parts store. My dad owned Allied Auto Parts. So I have a history of building old hot rods and cars and fixing things. And I rehab old motorhomes. So people are often shocked about that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. How about you, Felicia? What's your hidden talent?
I would have to probably say birthday parties. Like I love putting on kids' birthday parties.
Hospitality is your thing, man.
That came from being an elementary teacher back in the day, but there was never a kid in my class that didn't have a cool party. And like I love, like, even if it's just like the styrofoam cups or whatever, you know, I can make those look like a monkey if they wanted a monkey theme or whatever. I just love the little intricate paper art and the everything that goes with it for a theme. Like I truly love that. And I think probably my weird hobby that I like doing is wood burning. And
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Love it.
We're gonna use
Love
that.
it.
We're gonna use that.
So when you do the wooden boxes, you know, like when you get wine in a wooden box and it slides the lid open and stuff, and then there's always the wood burned logo on the front. I love doing those too. Like, so those are cool.
I love this.
And I like branding barrels. I just like the smell of like wood and smoke and sawdust. I go, yeah.
Well, so tell us how you guys have seen each other grow over the last couple of years of working together, because I'm sure you are totally different ladies now than you were when you first started.
Gosh. Wow. I think for her, watching her grow from moving her distillery from Alaska to here, and the process, like watching her go through that process, it is grueling, and it takes so much time, and her like tenacity to keep going at it, and her courage, it's inspiring sometimes. And trust me, this is a dream that not very many people are able to go after. And especially, and I hate to say this, but most women don't go after a dream like this. And I love seeing that. So watching her grow into this role, into the community, is pretty special.
I love that.
That's cool.
I would probably say for Sabrina, I've grown immensely in my respect for her in all areas of knowledge and expertise in the field, because there's not a day that I don't know that when I ask a question, it's the right answer. Like, that's huge, because you don't have time to second guess. Things move quickly. And then Sabrina's always very proactive. So she also heads off any problems or circumstances that could come about with, I don't know, double booking things, or
we had the box issue. Remember, like the moving.
Oh, holy Hannah! Yeah. So my glass, I buy American glass only. So my glass comes in a 12-pack, meaning 12 bottles are in there. However, learned that it sells so much better if you have a 6-pack that goes out into the market, because say, Linzee, that you haven't tried the spirits before and you're like, I'd like to buy some, but I'm not going 12. You know, like if this is terrible tasting, I don't want 12 bottles of this sitting at the store. And so, you know, being able to purchase 6 is so much more delightful, and it's more of a, and then Sabrina talking me into, you know, let's do a mixed case also, because that's interesting. And
putting
so
UPCs on the outside of the box.
Yes. That was a challenge. So changing all boxing once it comes into our warehouse, putting it down into 2 smaller boxes, and then changing all of those UPC codes. Because when you guys see those little codes at the back, like, I don't know, this is probably lame, but I'll go super close.
It's that barcode on the back.
The barcode means a lot. That's not just for you to scan at a store. What that means is you now, if you change anything for that spirit, you have to go back in and get the new barcode and completely update it. So what that is that's the weight of the bottle itself. It's the weight of the spirits in it. It tells the formula, like it can be tapped into to the federal government, because we have to claim our formula, meaning our recipe. And if you change anything, you've got to totally redo every one of those. And that's a big deal. And it's also a legality. So trusting that she absolutely knows what's going on, and me also being able to implement that quickly into our field is interesting. And then honestly, Sabrina, she's very bubbly, but when it comes to an emergency situation, you've never seen a girl that is more calm and like basically level-headed and in the most challenging situations. And I truly appreciate that. It's like working with an EMT. Like, you know, I'm saying, oh God, I just got hit by a car. And she's like, now it's going to be all right. You're not going to bleed out. You know, like it's just, it's nice, because then there are days when she's like, oh, wow, you know, this happened. And I love cheering her on for the next, you know, win that takes place in her industry too. So.
Well, and the way I see it is like everything's fixable, right? We have to look at things as nothing's going to be damaged forever. So let's figure out how we'll fix it. We're going to move forward. So, and we do. We handle it just fine.
We often say, because you'll come up with a good idea, you think, you know, and so you'll throw it to the next level, and then, you know, we'll say, well, it's either going to be awesome or it's not. Like, you only have two choices, so
Right.
might as well go for it and see how it plays out. But yeah, but she stays cutting edge with all of the trends in the marketing and such, which is very helpful, because I know where my spirits go, you know, what companies we're placed in, but Sabrina is seeing it from, you know, all of the largest wineries and the, you know, cross training there with, like, if you were doing CrossFit, she's doing all of it. I'm staying in my own lane as a distiller. And so she knows what's going on with wines, with beer, with the spirits. And
we also do soda, energy drinks,
kombucha.
Yeah, all the things.
Well, and Sabrina, how do you do, so like, you know, obviously there's a big job in managing. How many clients do you actually have, Sabrina, just out of curiosity, that you work with?
I would say, let's just focus on Northern Nevada. We're about 276 customers, but technically you're looking at about 144 outlets.
Okay. And so, you know, the fact is, like, when do you schedule time for learning more about all those things? Like, what does that look like? Because in all of our industries, you know, that person who's supporting somebody like Felicia, they really do need to continue to grow and learn. So how do you budget your time for that?
So yeah, that's a great question. This actually came up in Craft Brewers Conference when I did an interview there. And I think the most important thing is I wake up, and when I get to the office, I usually read the industry news to figure out what's going on. I subscribe to a lot of the newsletters in my industry. Some of those you pay for, some of those you don't. But that keeps you in the conversation, and that gets you a seat at the table. So just having that information for your day, so you don't get blindsided by, hey, did you just hear Mary Edwards sold out? And it's a winery that I have.
Right.
By the way. So if you don't read that news, that was in the news that morning. And you know what? I didn't read it that morning, and it was a surprise to me. But it happens, and you just have to be on the cutting edge. I think I was lucky enough to be a part of the craft beer industry as that was growing. I remember going to Craft Brewers Conference, and there was 1,700 breweries. And this year, I think they hit like 8,600. That was just 6 years ago. So, I mean, that is a massively growing industry. And I was a part of building craft beer brands, engaging in the industry. And beer is probably the most complicated product out there when it comes to alcohol because of spoilage and short shelf life. But I just stayed loyal to my retailers and my brands, and I picked 1 or 2 breweries to work on every quarter, and I just helped them build their business. And then I would go on to the next 2, help them build their business. I'm helping a local brand here called Imbibe. And, you know, I'm spending a little bit of time with them every month, and we just sit down and we talk about their product. Where are we going to go next? Let's talk about how we're going to engage in the market. And you have to do that. And Felicia, it's great with our relationship. I'm able to do that with her, and we do it on a personal and private level. I mean, we talk all the time. So I really enjoy working with her. So
what does your personal growth plan look like for each of you?
I'm going to let you go start.
Sure. So, and I was just going to answer what Sabrina had just said really fast too. So for me, for the distilleries, I really look towards what are the foodies doing? Because the food industry really, to me, is cutting edge for dictating where the flavor profiles are going next. And then I can get ahead of that And as a producer and as a creator of spirits, that's really interesting to me. Like, are they going more savory? Are they going more sweet? What's going on here? And when people are the chefs in the industry, they're the leaders, you know, and they're creating the dishes. If I see them coming out with something interesting with rum, I'm on it. If it's gone towards the tequila side, interesting, you know, and you're just kind of, is it vodka sauces this season? Like, what's going on here? Because that also dictates or gives me an indicator of what sales are going to be for different categories that I'm in with our spirits. And then for growth, let's see. Everything's always growth. I feel like we're constantly
but personal growth. So Sabrina talked about like what she's doing to stay on top of industry trends and stuff like that. What are you guys doing? Because your business grows to the extent you do. So what do you guys do for growing your personal selves?
Okay, so do we want personal answer or do we want industry?
Personal.
Growth? Okay. Me personally, I love to be a voracious reader, and conferencing for business is important to me, because not only is that meeting people that are maybe not in my industry, but they have knowledge that I can borrow into my industry. Like I cross train all the time from real estate, to be honest. Bold was one of the best things that I ever took, because my industry of distilling, we don't have any training per se. You get your credentials through actually physically distilling, and then what, you know? So there's not a huge knowledge base already put into place for marketing and for, you know, scaling up your production, for going international. What does that look like? It's a totally different world. For getting across the US to different markets, for dealing with states that are control states. So meaning you can't sell to them directly to the stores. It has to go to a state liquor store, and then they just, yes, and it's been a challenge because I have family in Virginia, and so when they would like to order something, it has to be a special order, and it takes honestly at least 3 weeks or more to ever get anything to them. So it's not spontaneous, and it's not right now. And so anyway, I also watch tons of YouTube videos for, and I don't spend a lot of time doing that, but in methods and production from all over the world, because I personally believe that I don't bring a spirit out until I've traveled to that country and immersed in it, so that I really get why they created it with these ingredients and such, and kind of a flavor for the people. And I love to travel, so I guess that's part of the bonus, like, honestly. And then it also gives you a huge leg up in our industry to kind of be able to hold those conversations, because we have people come from all over the world to test different distilleries and breweries and wineries. You know, they're taking the tours, and they have a wealth of knowledge when they come in the door. You want to be able to match that. You know, you want to be able to visit with them on the level that they would like. So you get engineers that come in, and they want to know all about the equipment and the degree that you know, what temperature was this, and what was the humidity the day that you, which is awesome, you know. So go ahead and visit with them about that. And then you get someone that would rather go ahead and talk about, oh my gosh, when I traveled there, I saw this, did you? And you get to visit about that. So it's important to be able to tap into what is interesting to them, not just me dictate what I want to tell them. I guess that's it. But yeah, and we put on tons of tasting parties, and so it can be anything from a very intimate, we had 4, we've done it with 4 people before that might be commercial real estate gentlemen, to and they want to learn more about smoking the box, you know. So we have a smoke box and how to make their own scotch, so they're smoking the woods themselves and amplifying the flavor. And then you might get, we've done it for 400 people that wanted to just do a tasting, and there are only 4 of us in the nation right now that make Applejack, and so they want the rare and the unusual, and so that is fun for them. So across the board, you're dealing with different people all the time, and you better know your stuff. Because you will get called out.
Knowing your stuff, I have a question kind of that goes back to something Sabrina said earlier, which was being a female in the industry that's male dominated and stepping up to ask for a seat at the table. So a lot of people listening to us are sort of the shotgun leaders who have earned the right to step up to the table, but their personality profile may not be as assertive as yours. What would you say your advice would be to them about if you are ready to take a seat at the table? What advice would you share with them?
You know, it's funny that you asked this. I was literally thinking about this last night. I think my best advice is don't be too eager, be patient, be a good listener. You know, I think it's taken me a long time to get where I'm at when it comes to respect in my industry and having that conversation and having a seat at the table and people asking your opinion. I can tell you it's still not easy, and I can tell you that you have to come to the table with something to offer. And there's so many people that are so eager to be that person that speaks, but find relevancy and find yourself as an expert in your field and be well researched. Be twice as prepared as the guy next to you, because at the end of the day, we're still not there. And I think women tend to get frustrated, but it's part of the path. And I think once you understand that we have so much to offer when it comes to communication and confidence and being detail oriented, and you'll get that respect, but you constantly have to be twice as good as the guy next to you. And I know that sounds terrible, but it is the truth, and it's not fun. But my advice, like I said, be patient, be a good listener, and have something to offer.
Love it.
Well, so tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you if they'd like to, because they may have questions all about your leadership and everything that we've talked about today. So how would they get a hold of you?
Okay, for Highmark Distillery, you are able to visit with us on, well, you can go on the website. So it's www.highmarkdistillery.com. Same with the email. You're welcome to visit with me by email or reach out to us here at the office. Honestly, I don't mind a phone call of, if you're even asking questions about how do you do an industry like this and have a family, or how do you juggle different things? Like, I'm more than willing to visit with anybody about that, because it's been a challenge. And it's always interesting to be in a field also that you may be. So to add on to what Sabrina just said, one thing that I would say for people, if you feel that you're more of a shy personality or you're an introvert, that's not a negative at all. Just go ahead and view yourself differently, perhaps. So view yourself as a pioneer in that field. Like, how are you bringing something different to the industry that you're in? How can you create something new? How can you add on to what's been implemented in a different, unique way? Like, so you don't have to have the over-the-top, bubbly, crazy personality. We happen to accidentally have that, probably from birth. But those that do not, I have seen excel and exceed way beyond capacity for anything that should have been something that a shy person could accomplish, because they took the time to view themselves a little bit differently as the pioneer in their own field, to be the most extraordinary and exceptional in their own lane that they could possibly be. And if it doesn't fit them well, if it's not their love and their desire and their passion, get out, get to a different spot, because you might be rather shy and reserved and conservative if it's not a great fit for you. So maybe, just maybe, you're extremely excited about something else. And I've seen people just come to life and glow when you tap into what they're actually really interested in. And they might have been the shyest person at the dinner table the whole time. But when you tap into what they love, oh man, you see a different side, and it's exciting. Yeah. Yeah. So, so Facebook, we try to keep up with that. Let's see, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't Twitter. I've never tweeted a day in my life. I should probably learn.
Don't Twitter, which is the best.
And then
to Twitter to tweet.
So much to learn. I know. And yeah, so any sales questions that you have too, like if you happen to be in a state and you're wondering how can we get a taste, just go ahead and email, and we'll answer you back as quickly as possible of how we actually could get that to you. And maybe it's not so much. You need to come visit us.
Right.
We've had international people that have asked, and yeah, so we had a gentleman that was a fighter pilot from Israel. That was super exciting that he had tasted our goods from Alaska and wanted to bring some of those home. And so we tried and tried and tried to make sure that we could get him some for his other pilots, because pilots are near and dear to my heart. And that was an absolute challenge. We realized you're going to have to go ahead and go outside of the country for us to get that to you. So, you know, just ask and we'll try our best to get it to you.
Oh, that's the best. And Sabrina, how would they get a hold of you?
For me, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the three. Instagram, it's funny, my name on Instagram is My Job is Beer. Because for a long time, my job was beer. Right. So it's Sabrina Sanders on Facebook. And then you can also email me at sabrinasanders775@gmail.com. That's my private email. I do brand consulting. And I do some of that for free. So I also charge for it if it's larger. So just that's part of my job also.
And if you're going to Burning Man and need something really awesome to wear.
That's your girl.
Yeah, I actually sell quite a bit of my clothes at a local place called Junkie. It's a local kind of thrift shop and costume shop. And then I do private design and also tailoring and alterations. I know it's crazy, but I do it for all the weird stuff. Don't bring me a suit.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, we're so thankful for you spending this time. And I do want to make sure too, because we're going a little bit over, but I just wanted, Felicia, for Fallen Heroes Family Camp, I would love to like put something in here and post that with it, because I know that's near and dear to your heart. So I'm going to grab that, and then maybe at some point we can share some of that at some point too, but I want to respect your time. And I'm so thankful that you guys were on here today. And so, you know, feel free to get in touch with them. And of course, again, I'm Linzee Ciprani with Ciprani Consulting, and my lovely co-host, which is Christy Grossman with Ops Boss Coaching. Find us on Facebook and all of the other places. So thank you, you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you guys so much.
Ladies, it was a true pleasure. Thank you. We loved it.
Thanks, Christy.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.